Hello.
Amazing to be here with you, Efrat.
Amazing to be here with you, my friend. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us after lunch. I am so happy to be here with Carol for this fireside chat. We're going to take the next half an hour to talk about things related to freedom. Do you like freedom? Yeah. Woo! Okay. So here we are, a couple of women who create content as their full-time job because their freedom is more important than anything else, I think, right?
Totally.
The whole world is going these days in this crazy trajectory, in lockstep into quite a totalitarian regime, implementing global agendas and plans that touch almost every aspect of our lives, from food and farming to health, climate, education, money, and of course, communication and information. We've seen Brazil recently taking extreme measures on the topic of communications and information and limiting people's freedom of speech and also even banning X or Twitter here in the country. So I want to start by asking you, Carol, as a local, can you share with us what actually happened here and what's your view on what happened? And how did the banning of Twitter impact people, if at all, in the country? And can it really be enforced?
First of all, thanks everyone for being here in a Bitcoin conference. I'm so happy to see all familiar faces and to meet new people and connect with all Brazilians also in my country that's so big and needs so much Bitcoin and freedom tech. I'm also so happy to be here with you, Efrat, sharing this stage. And a little bit more about this recent ban on Twitter. We were already conscious that it would happen some way because since 2022 we were seeing some news and some events about banning Twitter and about some entities of the government and Supreme Court wanting to censor opinions on social media. When I started on Twitter, it was 2019, and I used it as a tool to connect to other Bitcoiners and especially to see the news. I noticed that it was a great tool to what is happening across the world in an instant moment and to contact direct with the sources. If something is happening to you, I could see your Twitter and get your opinion. And since then, the Twitter became also and got a lot of strength, being also a political platform. And a lot of politicians and anyone who had any political opinion could express through Twitter. And this is when the polarization that we already see in our daily lives, physically, analogically, we start to see it digitally at the social media, and Twitter specifically. So what happened is that the government started to censor some people in Brazil. Rumble already had turned down Brazilian access, but Twitter didn't want it to deliver to the government information about those who were criticizing the government, and then Supreme Court decision asked for the internet providers to turn down Twitter. How do I felt at that moment? Disconnected from the news, because when you don't have a platform where you can exchange ideas and opinions and perceptions and points of view with your friends and other people across the world, you are just limited to a fraction of reality. And I could only see the journals, and some of them are paid by politicians, banks, or those whatever who have interest on this. But the thing that happened next is a Streisand effect. Because a Streisand effect is when the government bans something or forbids something, and it brings more attention to that thing. So this is when people start to search for VPNs. And Nostr became something, a way to access media without being censored. So I saw a lot of people that would never use a VPN start to search about it, and especially using Lightning to access information, and even so accessing Twitter through a VPN. So the ban occurred, but Brazilians got more clever, more aware of what is happening, because if you are censored, now you know who want to shut up you.
And is this a part of like a bigger trajectory of Brazil in general to try and limit what kind of information people are being exposed to, trying to censor them and control their mindset in a way? Or is this something very specific just about Twitter?
It's specific because Twitter is where the critical political posts were happening, but they called it hate speech or anti-democratic speech. So, and this is the thing, because what determines what is a hate speech or anti-democratic speech? So this is the way they can...
And who says what the truth is, right?
They even want to regulate social media after that. So regulate what? What they want to regulate? What you can say? What you can post? Which photos are with who you are? So they want to track people through social media and to define what is the truth. And this is so deep, and this is so concerning. Someone telling me what is the truth and what is lie. This is something, because truth and lies always happen through our society, gossips and something like that. And people need to be aware how to differentiate one from another and not censor the one who is spreading things that are not true. We don't need a government to tell us what is true, what is not. So this is really concerning, don't you think?
I definitely think that it's concerning, and I think that it's also part of the same trend that we're seeing happening at the same time all around the world. You have in the EU the Digital Services Act, which is a new law about freedom of speech. So the DSA, and it's specifically about digital. So what kind of behavior and information and communication you share online. And the EU has already issued a warning to X telling them, you don't comply with our new DCA regulation. If you don't stop, we will ban you, just like here in Brazil. So that is something that is happening all around the world. Australia, Ireland, UK, France, Israel, just a few examples of how all these countries are implementing similar laws at the same time. Normally, in the past, look at history, this would not happen, but today, for some magical reason, this is all happening at the same time, just like the pandemic that happened at the same time all over the world. And it's just, it feels too orchestrated. So if we take it one step back and zoom out and look at this, we can see that this is part of a larger global agenda that is called Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, which almost all countries around the world are part of, 193 countries which have signed it back a few good years ago. And they're all implementing it at the same time, and it impacts all of the areas of our lives, and one of them is communication and information. And because I think the internet, which is such a wonderful tool, on the one hand, it's decentralized, right? It's supposed to be. Like the architecture is decentralized, but the implementation, there is some centralization of it. But it's supposed to be this wonderful network that is decentralized, that people can share information and communicate with each other globally from all over the world. It improves our lives in so many ways, and we've seen the massive acceleration of modernization that happened in the last decades. But at the same time, it also allows you for a greater amount of freedom to actually say what you want, where you want. There are all these social media platforms, there are all these apps and all these websites where you can do many, many things that you couldn't do before. And it's as if those who are holding the power, governments and maybe global organizations, feel like they're losing control, right? In some way. And so all those laws that you're seeing put in place, we're now focusing on freedom of speech, but this is happening also in many other areas, are being implemented so that they can regain control again over the population that is misbehaving, or, you know, we have misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, all these terms that we've never heard before. At least not in democratic countries or in places that were not communistic or authoritarian. And all of a sudden, this is becoming mainstream. It's becoming like every country is speaking about these things, doing these things, banning ISPs, internet service providers. So it's as if we live in a different reality all of a sudden. Everything is becoming a lot more trying to be surveilled and controlled. So I definitely think that this is a worrying concern. And the last thing I say about it is that in every country you will see that these rules and regulations are being implemented in a slightly different way because they have to be smart enough not to upset the population too much, so they find the local excuse to introduce those regulations. Like in the UK or in France, it's about the migration and riots. So because there's riots and there's violence, we have to now ban Twitter or ban one of those social media networks because it's too dangerous for people to be exposed to that content. God forbid, they're like little kids. We need to make sure that they don't see all that stuff. Or in Israel and Gaza, there's a war, right? So because of the war, we have to kick out Al Jazeera, which is one of the most famous communication channels. It doesn't matter what you think about it, if you like it or not, if you think it's pro something or against something. It's a media channel, it's a TV channel, and it was banned in Israel and closed down, and now there is a law in place that allows the government to close down any communication channel, any newspaper or publication, because of misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, right? So the same law is being put in place, but from a different excuse. So it's the same tactic or playbook, I think, all over the world. Okay, so Jack Dorsey said recently that the free speech debate is a distraction. He thinks that the real debate should be about free will, right, or choice. And we feel it right now because we are being programmed. That's what he said. The true threat of big tech companies is not impacting your speech, but impacting your ideas. So free speech versus free will, with the algorithm actually influencing your ability to really choose, presenting you with a specific, limiting and controlled view of the world. I'll add to that algorithms today oftentimes censor critical thinking and non-mainstream views and also punish you for that and encourage you to be more, like you said, more divisive, more polarizing inside the current allowed sandbox. So what are some ways that you can hold or uphold a sane space for free speech online? And what is your take about that?
Yeah, this programming thing, it's really deep and really serious because most of us don't know how the algorithm works. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Fiat system, all of those are closed systems. They are not open source. So when you have a closed algorithm, you don't know exactly how it works, especially when it works for get you addicted to that. And you never know how much of the information was made to be there to convince you of something that sometimes is not a good thing for your freedom or will make you think that to make you feel fear. And when you feel fear, you try to trust more in the government or in others or third parties. And I think that Nostr, for example, can be a great tool because I was talking to Pablo Fernandez these days because I'm mixing all the subjects, but I'll get there. Already happened to you when you are talking about wine or something or a cloth, anything, and then it starts to appear on your feed? So this, I don't know how it works, but this gives me some tips that, okay, how they know that? Are they hearing me? And they are using the information they capture according to my attention, my lifestyle, my payments, all my history, my friends, whatever, any information they can take from you, and use it to convince you of something, convince you to buy something, or convince you politically in something, or convince you that the world is going to end and we need more government to do this and that. So the algorithm can be used against the people and against the free will. So this is a really philosophical debate, but now connecting to Nostr, Nostr is an open source protocol for social media where we can exchange ideas better than Twitter. and it's open source. You can verify everything. And one thing about the algorithm, I was talking to Pablo Fernandez, that is a dev that works on Nostr. He said that you can, on Nostr, choose your algorithm. Maybe someday you can purchase from another person an algorithm. You can establish your own algorithm. How do you want your feed to be? For what kind of information you want to be impacted? This is a level of transparency and social media sovereignty any social media give to us. We don't have the chance to choose what kind of information will feed my brain and impact on my decisions and all the things that come next, because this molds how information works and how populations develop their networking and their informational system. So to me, Nostr, just like Bitcoin, it promotes a change so deep, not just in social media, but on like information, journals, and how we interact with this technology, and not to be in the hands of big corporations that can be easily censored or can be regulated. And we don't know how they will be regulated. Are they going to change the algorithm against people again, but this time to follow the government's needs? And this is really deep. And I don't know if I have an answer, but I'm really excited about Nostr and with all of these possibilities.
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing that people often... Nostr is definitely a good answer. I would add to it that one thing that people may be missing these days is to take back sovereignty means that you also take back sovereignty of your own ideas, the information that you consume. And you were pointing very correctly to the fact that the information we consume is so targeted and it's all oriented towards making us consume more. We are being viewed as consumers, right? I have 20 years experience as a marketeer. I used to be a chief marketing officer for tech companies. I know all the tactics of influencing a person to take an action. That's ultimately what a marketeer needs to do, is to lead you in the right direction to take the action that they want you to take. And so this has become so pervasive almost everywhere, especially in the internet today, that I think that if you are aware that you are under such attack, quote unquote attack, then you have to reclaim your sovereignty back in controlling where you consume your content, who from, who do you follow, and also go back into what is it to learn something new? What is it to educate yourself? You need to relearn how to ask questions, how to go source for the information, which are the sources that you rely on, are they legitimate or not? So there is a lot more responsibility on us to validate and check the information that we are receiving. I always tell my followers and my audience, always check me too. Don't believe everything I say just because you like me and you follow my podcast or what I write. Go check me. And when I write, I also put links to my sources so that people can go and check. And I encourage everyone to do the same, because the space that we operate in has become so compromised that I think we have to do that as sovereign individuals. Okay, my next question, Carol, is about we go from freedom of speech to freedom to transact. Much the same way your ability to communicate is limited, your ability to transact is taking the same direction. How do you see financial freedom limited in Brazil these days, and how does the public react to it?
Okay, money is a communication tool. You communicate value. And it became also a coercion tool. Banks can close your account, governments can debase you. So when this tool to communicate...
Governments can debase you? Governments debase you. Yeah. They do it.
Yeah.
They don't do it. They do it all the time.
But it's hard now, bringing a little to what is happening through CBDCs. This is going to get worse, because it's not anymore just cash where you can print, but cash don't has any information about people. You can't use it against the population unless printing. When we see the world today and a lot of countries developing digital currencies, we see all this surveillance system and this corrupted system, this closed source system that no one can verify to be used against people. And at the first moment, when I started to learn about Bitcoin, I didn't thought it was so deep and so aggressively used against people. And now I can, the more I study, I can see how much the system is totally debasing, devaluating, impoverishing, surveilling, and indebting, enslaving a lot of people that I can't see how to trust the system anymore, because it all the time is attacking the own citizens that use this currency. So we have now in Brazil a payment system called Pix that is like a pre-CBDC. Everyone is connected, and probably next year CBDC will be launched, and the central bank already communicated that we will use a lot of affinity scams like DeFi, smart contracts, and it will be better than Bitcoin, but I don't see how, because they will still
They said it will be better than Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Funny.
Like Bitcoin, but more secure, is from central bank. And they are doing affinity scams to make people know, the ones that are not Bitcoiners yet, that a CBDC Drax will be better. This is the name of the CBDC. It's a term for digital real electronic transactions. And all of this we're talking about surveillance and censorship, will just get worse. And I think that our mission is to help people to understand about Bitcoin and don't be victims again and again and again of this system.
Do you think people are going to resist it in any way?
I hope
or because
yes.
they use Pix, they are just going to go along and...
Yeah, Pix is really convenient. They got to a huge success in this because they force all banks bigger than 100,000 clients to adopt it. So the adoption was pretty fast, but they won't stop using the printer. They won't stop devaluating. Inflation will just get higher and higher, how it occurred through time. In here, in Brazil, we already had like hyperinflation, a lot of money printing. We had confiscation of savings account in the 90s. So these bad things that occur in the financial system occur recurrently. And I don't see any other exit unless Bitcoin. So I think that people, some will use it, but the more aware about Bitcoin, more they will opt out and choose for a better system where they can verify. They can't be debased.
And what's your view about creating a national official stablecoin of the government instead of CBDC? But it's a stablecoin, another digital currency, but will be controlled by the government.
I think that it could only work if it was like a stable coin of dollar, but this would mean that our real would be dead. But I don't see any difference between a stable coin and a CBDC. It's the same. So they will have control over this token. So when they have control, they can do anything. Doesn't matter the name they give to it. So Drax would be real digital in the past. They changed the name. So it doesn't matter what it is. If it's controlled by a central bank, by the government, they will always use the same tools and the same mechanisms.
Which I totally agree with you, which takes us to Bitcoin really classically. What does Bitcoin mean for you?
What Bitcoin made for me? Whoa, so much.
Surprised you, huh?
Yeah. No, Bitcoin changed the way I think. And changed what I understand about money, changed what I understand about freedom, and teach me about freedom, things that I never learned before. So I could say that Bitcoin changed my life because I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be who I am, and I think that Bitcoin makes me a better person because now I can see and I can really choose my destiny. When you are relying on fiat, me and Kaká, we always say that people are in the rat wheel. They are running, working all the time without thinking, without choosing their own paths. Yeah. They are like in that state machine and they can't opt out because you can see a way out. And when you learn about Bitcoin, okay, in the first moments you are like seeing it as a speculative asset, but when you learn the properties of Bitcoin as money, and you understand what the central banks do with the printers, and how this impoverishes everyone, and how this determines the destiny of whole populations, and how this is made in a world scale, like this is a global problem. This made me fall in love with Bitcoin and to see it as the best chance we have for a better world. So I couldn't be thankful enough for Satoshi and for Bitcoin and for people that are here learning about Bitcoin.
And what is the state of awareness to Bitcoin now in Brazil, and what are some good steps that you think should be taken to create more awareness?
I see Brazil really advanced in understanding Bitcoin, but still there's a shitcoining mindset. So this is the thing we need to improve, because we're really open to technologies. We have a past of hyperinflation. It's easy for people to understand. They see the prices rising. They see they need a protection. They don't trust anymore the government that much, like any other countries like Norway or Europe or United States. But here also we have a culture of betting, casinos, to take a chance to win a little bit. And this mentality goes to money. And I think that here, this is a process. People firstly learn about how fiat can be debased, can stole your freedom, your privacy. So they think that crypto is a solution, but they don't see that crypto is like the fiat system disguised. So this is a process. You start to learn one thing, you go to another, and then you become Bitcoin only and see, okay, this is the real innovation. This has decentralization. No one can change it. I can verify by myself, and no one can change the Bitcoin that I run in my node. And this gives you trust in this network and this money as a better money.
What's your outlook, just before we wrap up, your outlook or prediction for next year and maybe beyond in Brazil and in South America for the adoption of Bitcoin?
I think and I hope and I expect it to grow, because from 4 years from now, we've seen so bad things in Brazil. We are seeing like the dollar in maximum high against the real right now. So people are more aware, and the more aware they are, more they search for the solution, the more they stack Bitcoin, the more they want to learn how to store it. So I see all the ecosystem growing, and a lot of Bitcoin companies too. I see banks not attacking Bitcoin anymore. It's a way much more friendly environment. But now the problem is that we have a CBDC. So this duel between Bitcoin, between orange and green, will be more difficult. But I think that now we have more people. And more people that can teach more people, that can help more people, and I think we will win.
Do you think that what Nayib Bukele is doing in El Salvador is doing something in Central and South America in general, like impacting people's awareness?
I believe so much in communities. I was talking to Kaká these days that, okay, Bitcoin changes and will change the world, but communities can change destinies. So anyone that got in touch with Bitcoin will remember this forever, and will always remember that first contact with Bitcoin. And everyone can be a multiplier of knowledge, and anyone can orange peel a friend. I know it takes time, I know it's hard, I know that friend will not accept it at first, but someday they will come back. They will see Bitcoin growing, and it will be impossible to ignore and to say it is not true or throw all those foods at you. But I think it's a matter of time. And the more people teaching, talking, learning about Bitcoin, the faster it will be. So my expectation, it is growth and more people wanting to help more people, and communities like there is in El Salvador, how there is in Africa, how there is across the world, will help us to change destinies, through Bitcoin to a better world, to a better system for people to don't be stolen and debased like they have been like for a century.
Thank you so much for your insights. I really appreciate your work. And you guys, if you are not following this amazing YouTube channel, Area Bitcoin, please do so. These ladies are amazing. Thank you so much for your attention. Thanks,
I'm pretty happy to be here with you. Follow Efrat too. Her work is amazing. Thank you, guys.